Hey, what's up, guys? It's Andrew from ProducerSociety.com. Today I'm going to talk to you about making Garageband instruments sound a little bit more professional, how to make them sound better. So there's a number of things that you can do to make your instruments sound a little more authentic and not even just authentic, but just better sounding, because I know that sometimes the instruments don't sound quite as good as you would like them to. So we're just going to run through a summary of what you can do, and then I'm going to explore each step in a little more detail. So on my article at ProducerSociety.com, I run through everything, explain it, use diagrams and everything. But anyway, so I would say the 7 things you can do are the following. You can use reverb to make the instrument sound bigger and less upfront. You can use ambience to change the style of the reverberation. You can use delay to thicken up the instrument or add additional effects. You can also use panning. Now this is more about making your mix sound a little better rather than the actual instrument. But either way, you can use the panning to spread out the instruments to create room for each other, and it's going to kind of make everything sound a lot better. Also compression to highlight the quiet sounds, minimize the loud sounds. EQ to clear up unwanted noise and to emphasize desired noise. And in some cases, the instruments are just going to be so bad, VSTs, and they're just not going to be that great, and you're just going to want to replace them with a superior plugin. So we're going to run through each one of these now individually. So when it comes to the first one, using reverb, this is the one of the most significance, reverb. So what you want to do is like if you listen to my piano right here. In fact, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to go and open a new track, and then we'll just kind of experiment with some instruments, and I'll show you how I would go about making them sound a little bit better. So let's use a good one. Let's use like the piano, the Steinway grand piano. So if you wanted to make it sound a little bit better, what would you do? Maybe just turn up the reverb a bit, go with ambience a little bit, perhaps even a bit of delay, maybe not too much though. Let's use a bit of compression, and then let's see how it sounds now. So you can see it's already sounding a little bit better once you add. So let's turn it all off. Let's turn all that off, and then we'll play it. Let's turn up the reverb, ambience. Let's put a bit of delay on it, some compression as well. You might not be able to hear the difference, but if you experiment with this on your own, you're definitely gonna find the difference. We're gonna explore some other things related to this later. So let's move on to the next one. So you can use reverb, and there's also a number of different types of reverb that you can use. So for instance, let's open up the reverb right now. Platinum Verb, we'll use that one, and I guess we'll explore some of the different ones right now. So you have reverb, you have the on verb, platinum verb, silver verb, and the space designer. So I think big room sounds pretty good. So we'll put that on, and I'll show you what that sounds like. You go into the presets, go big room, and then let's So you can see that it's already starting to sound a little bit better. Now, perhaps you don't like that piano. Well, we're going to explore how to get a different one later. So just go through the different types of reverb and kind of experiment with what you think sounds the best. So obviously you have the on verb instead. It has different presets, or you can try the silver verb, which also has different ones. And then we'll go down to the space designer, and it has different ones as well. So this is more for it's more for like, if you look at the settings right here, you got the different kind of rooms, halls, plate reverbs, gated reverbs, spring reverbs, indoor, outdoor, warp spaces. Like there's so many other things that you can change it to. So give this a shot and see if you can kind of make your instruments sound a little bit better by just using a bit of reverb. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now you also want to turn up your ambiance a bit. Now this isn't adjusting the strength. This is more so adjusting like the style of the way that the sound reverberates, whereas the reverb itself is more like, the actual room in which the sound is coming from, So ambiance is just a little bit different. You can experiment with it on your own as well. I usually put it up to around 3 to make it to 3 or 4 to make it sound a bit better. I guess I don't have to turn off that space designer. Let's put up the ambience quite a bit. You notice that it kind of crashes a little bit more when you have the ambiance cranked up. It's also going to have the effect of making your tracks bleed out into stereo rather. So if you have your piano pan to the left and you crank the ambiance, it's going to make it sound a little bit more stereo. So that's worth mentioning. Another thing that you can do is use delay. I find delay is great. You can really thicken up a sound. You can make it sound more chill. I mean, you can use it for the sake of creating more of a like an introspective vibe. I find like delay is super popular with like progressive metal type stuff, kind of like Plini and other artists like that. So for instance, let's use one of the guitars right now that come with Garageband. Let's turn up the reverb a bit, ambience. Let's turn on the delay, stereo delay. Now we can adjust the wet, the left and right mix. That's just going to determine how much of it is coming through. So anyway, just experiment with reverb, delay, and ambiance. Like these are some effects that's going to help your music sound a little bit better. But don't worry, there's more ways of kind of making your stuff sound better. So yeah, make sure to try out the different kinds of delay. I already explored this in another video, 8 tips for GarageBand that you've never heard before. In that one, I talk about the types of delay timing. So for instance, if the sound that you're altering is quarter notes or 16th notes, you can actually use a delay calculator, and then that will give you the recommended delay setting that you could use for that. So that's definitely something that you should check out. Additionally, I think I already talked about this already. I talked about panning. Yeah, so you can pan it like this, have your other piano like this. Let's make something right now. Anyway, let's just go. So anyway, let's pull this back a bit. Let's quantize it. Where are you, quantizer? 16th note. Strength is all the way up. Let's put the quantizer in this one as well. So anyway, the panning, you have one pan to the left, one pan to the right. Now this is, as I said before, it's not gonna change the actual quality of the instrument, but it's gonna allow the mix to sound a lot better. You know, it's gonna, like when I first started panning, I found that it really made a difference in terms of the quality of the mix. Because before I just had everything, you know, right in the center, and frankly, it didn't sound that good. But once you use panning, you can kind of start to get the feel for. Well, in my opinion, I frankly think that panning is almost like the difference between having something sound really good and having it sound bad. You know, like if you have all your instruments panned to the center, it just doesn't sound professional. It just sounds like you made it, and you know, it just sounds like a beginner made it. You know, it sounds like someone who's new to music and they don't know what they're doing, and that's what it sounds like. You know, but when you start using panning, you're going to notice that it's just going to make a huge difference in terms of how your instruments sound together. So, you know, make sure you do that. Make sure you give that a shot, you know. So let's move on to the next thing. Compression is a great one. You know, you're going to use it for minimizing the loud sounds and highlighting the quiet ones. You can read more about compression in my article. It's also in the, it's linked in the article. In terms of the compression, I would say that you want to use presets at first if you don't know what you're doing. So for instance, let's look at this one. So for this one, you can listen to the guitar, right? Let's listen to these guitars right now. Now let's turn the compressor off and I'll show you what they sound like. Now the compression is off. Now let's turn them back on. Maybe you can't hear the difference, but when you use a compressor, it just brings everything forward, depending on how you use it. But you know, in terms of a guitar part that you need to make it sound a lot better, like if you use the preset right here, I have it on acoustic guitar. However, I increased the strength of it, the ratio, dropped the threshold a little bit, or rather increased it, and then also added some gain to it. So that really brought the acoustic guitar part forward, and you just made it sound a lot better. I mean, you can, using a compressor on vocals too is the same way. The moment you put a compressor on it, I find it just makes it sound better. And you know, as I wrote about in my article, I said that a lot of people are overusing it. And according to the book, Bobby Orwinski, he wrote a really good book on it, the Complete Engineer's Handbook, I think it's called. But he's just saying how it's become kind of overused because people love it so much, and they do. You know, if you hear everything on the radio, everything is compressed quite a bit. You know, it just makes everything sound better, you know. So, but however, the danger in using it is that you don't want to use it too much, you know, because otherwise you crush all the dynamics in your sound. And dynamics, by that I just mean that, like, you know, the difference between loud and soft sounds. And you know, if you crush that, everything kind of sounds flat and lifeless and just doesn't have very good energy. Also, you want to use the EQ. So in my guitars right here, you can see my EQ set up. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like with no EQ. We're going to play it without EQ right now. So you kind of notice that the sound, it almost sounds like there's too much mid-range. It's kind of muffly. It just doesn't sound that good, you know? However, when we turn the EQ on, which looks a lot like this, let's turn this on, and now let's listen to it again. It just sounds better, man. And so you can apply the same thing to the piano as well. Like, let's listen to the piano right here. let's play it again, and let's adjust the EQ. Now I find that in terms of pianos, when it comes to pianos, I find that they in real life it sounds like they have more mid-range, honestly. So if you adjust the mid-range, let's do it right now. I don't know why I did that. So this is what it sounds like without EQ. So let's listen to it now with EQ. So yeah, just don't be afraid of EQ. You want to use it to, usually what it's most commonly used for eliminating some of the mid-range. And in the case of the piano, we're actually using it to increase the mid-range. But you know, the mid-range part of a mix is usually the part that needs to be dropped down a bit. And so if you just experiment by like pulling it down, this is kind of like the mid-range. You just go like this, pull it down, and see how it sounds without that specific frequency. And you're going to be able to make it sound possibly quite a bit better. Another thing that you can do is you can just straight up replace the instrument that you have in GarageBand with a better one. You know, so for instance, I hate the guitars in GarageBand. I don't like them at all. I think they sound terrible. They just don't sound that good. The acoustic is okay, I guess, but so if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my article on installing plugins. You can also check out what I think are some of the best instruments available for GarageBand users. In that one, I talk more about, I just kind of list some of the plugins that sound good. For instance, you know, you can try like this piano that I actually mentioned to you is not a stock piano. It's the forefront piano. So it looks kind of like that. That's the forefront piano. It sounds pretty good. You can get it for VST for free. Also, you can also use the Nylon String. It sounds great as well. Dynamic guitars right here. You can see what it sounds like. That's a steel one. So let's try the nylon now. Now let's try acoustic. For whatever reason, they use too much vibrato on the acoustic, but regardless, it sounds a lot better. You know, you also have the saxophone too, like the dynamic, the DSK saxophone sounds way better than the stock saxophone. And you know, even like, let's try this one. I downloaded this one the other day, the Yojo banjo. The banjo sounds sick, man. So I mean, you can get your hands on some of these VSTs that just sound worlds better in case you want to replace them. So anyway, that's all for this tutorial. These are just some of the methods that I use to make the instrument sound a little bit better. I hope this was useful to you. As usual, like and subscribe, share it on your social media or what have you. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.